Good evening and welcome to the Monday, April 27th, 2020 East China School District Regular Board of Education meeting. I'd like to call it to order at 6 p.m. We'll start with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Board of Education members, does anybody have anything this evening?
I'll just chime in and thank all the staff, all the teachers for all the work that they've done in this unusual time, and all the administrators. And also just wish everybody well. We know that everybody's trying to figure out how to do life as it is now, but we're just thinking about all the students and their families and everybody.
Thanks, Todd. Anybody else?
I'd like to thank all the voters. It seems like it's been forever that we passed our bond, but I would like to thank all the voters and excited to see the changes that are going to be taking place as we move forward.
Thanks. Anybody else? I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Chartwells for all of their hard work in getting the thousands and thousands of meals out to the students of our district. Suzanne?
Yes, I too want to thank our staff, our administrators, our support teams, and our families for, this is our second week with our continuity of learning plan, and they have done an outstanding job shifting gears this quickly, and everyone is supporting each other, helping each other, and we're just being there and trying to get through our new normal. So I want to thank everybody. We had to, as everybody did, move quickly to this new normal, and each time we hit a bump, we're all able to figure it out together, and it feels good to be working together as a team. So thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. So a motion is needed for the approval of minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on February 24th, approval of payments of bills for February and March, financial statement for February and March, and schedule of investments for February and March.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all approved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor, excuse me. All not in favor, please also signify by saying aye. Okay, that motion carries. Now we're going to move on to item number 4, recognitions of persons wishing to address the board. Seeing how we did not have anybody come forward, we will move right on to our next item. Information discussion items. I know the first item here is Mr. Naughton. I don't believe he's in attendance yet. So we will, no, okay. So let's move down to the next item, which is the Risa 2020-21 budget proposal.
Each of you should have received from Kim Day the electronic copy of Risa's budget proposal. Did everybody receive those copies?
Yes.
Okay. So as he normally does, Kevin has, Dr. Miller, superintendent for Risa, has asked if he could be at our May meeting to answer any questions you may have or clarify any parts of their two budgets.
And then we will vote to approve it at that meeting, correct?
That's correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions regarding that? Okay, so then I guess we'll just wait for Mr. Naughton to arrive. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to take just a couple minute pause until Mr. Naughton arrives for his portion of our meeting, and then we will resume. Okay, at this time, we're going to resume our meeting, and the next item on our agenda was the resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of bonds. Mr. Robert Naughton.
Thank you. I'm a PFM, and I'm very pleased to be working with the district on, as your financial advisor, issuing the series of bonds. And presented before you this evening is an authorizing resolution to continue along with the path now that the voters have approved the election in March. And the first page is after the covers the timeline of events. So through the process, we have to prepare an offering document called an official statement, which will be used to find bond purchasers for your bonds. And that's a joint effort between Tina and Suzanne and our office, PFM, and also your bond counsel. So there's an hour-long call to review that document to make sure it's fit to be published. And then soon after, there's a credit rating call, and that's also a team effort between Tina, Suzanne, and our office, along with your credit rating agency, which I believe is Standard & Poor's. And that's like a 50-minute call. And then we get the credit rating, and your bonds will have the state's credit rating along with the school district's credit rating. And once we receive that, the official statement will be published along with the notice of sale. And because that's district's going with competitive sale approach, that notice of sale is going to be published, and banks or brokerage firms that are interested in buying your bonds, more likely brokerage firms, will be invited to bid on your bonds. And then one important event is your taxable value. The 2020 taxable value is going to be received in the week of May 25th. And that's important because we're going to structure this bond issue to target the millage that we've been targeting. What's it, 3.8 mils total? 3.18. Okay, and the bond sale is going to occur on June 3rd, and that's like a 20-minute phone call where bids are opened. Most bids are received on the internet, and whichever bid has the lowest interest rate is awarded. And interest rates are incredibly low right now, so that's going to be a fixed rate bond issue, but we won't know until June 3rd exactly what that interest rate will be. That's the bond sale. And then about June 20th will be the bond closing, and that's when the district receives the funds. Any question with the timing?
I have one question.
Yes.
How does an individual buy an East China School District bond?
Good question. Well, once we know who the winning bidder is on June 3rd, the district could relay that information to anyone that's inquired with interest to buy the bonds. And they could contact the winning bidder to see if there are any bonds available. I don't know what the chances of that are. The individuals could also ask their brokerage firm in advance of the bond sale, that they know that the East China bonds will be sold on June 30, and if they could put their name on a list, and their firm may be able to work with a firm that would be the winning bid, and they
Okay.
might be able to get a place in line, but there are no guarantees with that approach.
All right, thank you.
So this might be a question for Suzanne. While this is all happening, there's some other bond work going on simultaneously as far as getting bids and moving forward with the other parts of the job.
The only thing that's occurring right now, because the AUK is not working as far as construction, is the surveys. We're working on getting the surveys done because they are able to work right now during the stay put order.
So if something changes with the executive order and construction is able to happen, will that begin? Does it have to happen after June 24th, or can it happen before then?
Any of the construction?
Or any of the other work?
The site work, yeah, the site work or the surveying, that's what we're working on getting done now, and that does take a little bit of time. But also the planning meetings. I know that Kirk has been meeting every Thursday with AUK to talk about the standards for the district. And then this Friday, the 1st, I have a meeting. Don Demick is also in the meeting regarding the project here at central office, just talking about what the phasing would look like and what the plans are for these projects. But the only, if you want to call it construction work, would be the surveys at this point.
Okay.
I could add on to that. If the district, maybe you already asked your bond counsel, Christopher Iammarino, about this, but if the district wanted to spend some money from their general fund to go towards something that would be reimbursed when the bond proceeds are available, that is possible. But under some conditions, a reimbursement resolution would have to be approved by the board before that expenditure actually
Is that, RJ, is that one of the appendixes in the document?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So if you were considering having some work being done before June 24th, then you would need to contact Christopher Iammarino to see if a reimbursement resolution is necessary. Under some situations, it's not necessary. But if it were necessary, the catch there is that reimbursement resolution would have to be approved by the board before the expenditure actually occurs.
Okay.
Excuse me, can I add some additional information? I have had correspondence with Chris Iammarino regarding this topic. We did discuss the types of items that would be reimbursed from the general fund, the types of expenses we've already incurred. Some capital was a part of that component. He did not indicate at that point that a resolution was going to be required, but I will double check. I'll follow up with him again, because we talked about some of the election costs, some of the services that have already been performed that are allowed to be covered by the bond. And there was nothing, he didn't indicate that a resolution was going to be required for those expenses.
Okay. So I'd like to proceed with the next slide, and I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit, but by all means, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This next slide shows what's happening with interest rates. And municipal bond rates are based on what we call MMD, the Municipal Market Data Yield Curve. And your yields on your bonds will be a basis over the MMD. And how much of a basis depends on a lot of variables, including what market conditions are like on the day of sale, but also the credit rating, and there's just so much going into it. But the MMD itself is compared to the Treasury rates. And this slide here shows 30-year MMD and the 10-year MMD, which are the yellowish bars, yellow and orange bars, compared to the 10-year Treasury, which is the dark blue. And MMD historically is either below or just above the 10-year Treasury. But when all this uncertainty happened with the pandemic, COVID-19 in early March, a lot of the interested bond purchasers were on the sidelines. They were not interested in buying bonds. And because of that, the basis of MMD over the treasuries was extremely high. And thankfully, much of that has been resolved in the last 3 weeks. So I'm not saying we're back to normal where we were before March, but we're definitely not at where that spike occurs on this chart. So the good news is that we've had many bond sales since, and there are interested buyers out there. Your bond issue is a little unique in that it's 28 years and it's a larger bond amount. But we are going to have a couple large bond issues brought to the market by competitive sale before yours is sold. And those key sales are West Bloomfield. I believe that sales later this week in 60-some million, 68 million, I think. And then there's Ann Arbor Schools. Bloomfield Schools and Ann Arbor Schools is selling a couple weeks later. And so that would be a good indication as to what the market is like for larger bonds in a competitive sale. I'd like to move on to the next slide if you don't have any questions about interest rates. This next slide shows a comparison of the current plan to have a bond amount approximately 75 million for issued in 2020, and then another series in 2023. And that's a little bit different than where we were when the bond proposal was prepared, where we had a 3-series approach, and that shows up under preliminary qualification. And since interest rates are so low right now, there is some benefit in issuing as much as you can with the first series of bonds. The estimated interest rate is currently 2.66% on a 28-year. At the time that we had the bond parameters prepared, we estimated 4.3%, which was probably 1% above current market rates at that time. So interest rates have gone down probably 0.5% at least since the bond proposal was drafted. I will mention that if there's a principal amount of the bonds, and if the coupon on the bonds is larger than the going rate of interest, then the current market conditions are that the bond purchaser provides an amount up front in addition to the principal. That's called a premium. The bond purchaser or the underwriter is going to pay an amount above the principal amount. That's because the coupons are higher than the going rate of interest. And because they're contributing money up front, that reduces the interest rate on the bonds to below the average coupon. So under the current market conditions, it's not unusual to have a large amount of premium. In this case, we're estimating the premium could be as much as 5 million or more. And what's interesting, what gets deposited into the capital projects account, that's where you pay for your project, the capital projects account, is the principal amount plus the premium, and we subtract out from the premium the amount of the underwriter's discount. And there is a law that states that the total amount deposited in the capital projects account for all series of bonds cannot be more than the voter authorized amount. So that's why the principal amount will likely total an amount less than what the voters approved of 112.9 million, because there's likely to be a premium. And that's because interest rates are so low right now that there's a trend to have a coupon that is higher than the going rate of interest. So a little more on this. The total millage, it would still be a 1.5 mil increase for a total of 3.18 mils. But the number of years at the highest millage would be less than originally projected. Before we go on to the next page, I would like to show the estimated interest cost savings compared to the original projection. And that is 20.8 million.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep, that's significant. Let's hope interest rates are as low, if not lower, when you issue the next series of bonds in 2023. By the way, when we decide how much principal to issue on these bonds, we worked with AUK, your construction manager, and there's a requirement that at least 85% of the proceeds have to be spent within 3 years. So we worked within those requirements to help decide how much the series would be. Next, we have the millage projection, the last slide. I know this has a lot of information because there are two series of bonds. So we have your existing debt on the left, and we have the new bonds inserted in the middle, and we have your taxable value growth, and that's conservative. The good news is we would know what your 2020 taxable value is on the day of sale, before the day of sale, and we'll be able to structure this bond issue to target the 3.18 mils for 2020 and use a conservative estimate in taxable value growth for the next few years. In this example, you're at the highest millage for 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 years. Yep, 6 years. I think the original projection had the highest millage projected for 8 or 9 years.
It was 10, yes.
10 years, yeah. So there's the benefit of having interest rates so low right now. And when we structure your 2023 bond issue, we would be able to structure that around, the millage objective at that time. So, all good news. Any questions?
Yeah, could you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
Where is that 20 million you were talking about?
That's the middle column, the estimated total interest cost. And under pre-sale 2, which is the current plan, the total estimated interest, $60,528,000. And at the time the bond proposal was prepared, which we call preliminary qualification, the total was 81.3 million.
Okay.
And that's the $20.8 million difference.
So we look to save $20 million.
Projected, yes.
Projected, okay.
Yep.
All right.
The average millage over the bond term is estimated to be 0.33 mils lower, but I think it's more meaningful when we say maybe the total number of years estimated at the highest millage was 9 or 10 years and now 6 years. Yeah, very meaningful. So that's all I had. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them, or you can get back with me.
Do we have any other questions?
No, he did good.
I'll let Tina know how the West Bloomfield sale goes, because I'm anxious to see that myself. And it is a good. Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Knowlton, for your information this evening and for joining in on our meeting.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we're going to pause for just another moment and we will resume as soon as possible. Okay, thank you. So the next item on our agenda is our action items. The only action item this evening is the recommended action resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of bonds. I'm required to read this resolution, and bear with me because it's quite lengthy. And once I'm done reading it, we will need a motion. So it goes, whereas on March 10th, 2020, the qualified electors of the issuer voted in favor of bonding the issuer in the sum of not to exceed $112,900,000. For the purpose of remodeling, including security improvements to, erecting additions to, furnishing and refurnishing, and equipping and re-equipping existing school buildings, acquiring and installing instructional technology and instructional technology equipment for school buildings, equipping, developing, and improving playgrounds, play fields, athletic fields, and athletic facilities, and developing and improving driveways, parking areas, and sites. And it has been determined by the board of the issuer that there be issued at this time a first series of bonds and an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $80,260,000. And the issuer may have the opportunity to either competitively sell the bonds or directly or privately place the bonds with a sophisticated investor or commercial bank. And the issuer has received a proposal from PFM Financial Advisors, LLC, regarding either the competitive sale or private placement of the bonds. And prior to the issuance of the bonds, the issuer must either achieve qualified status or secure prior approval of the bonds from the Michigan Department of Treasury pursuant to Act 34, Public Acts of Michigan, 2001, as amended. Now therefore, be it resolved that 1, the first series of bonds of the issuer aggregating the principal sum of not to exceed $80,260,000 to be issued for the purpose of funding a portion of the project. The bonds shall be designated 2020 School Building and Site Bond Series 1. And all further components of bond sale as outlined in the 31 pages of the resolution, exhibits, and appendixes provided. A motion is needed.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions regarding the resolution?
No.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, great, motion carries. So the next item on our agenda is items for our next board meeting, and at that meeting, we will be having our retiree recognition. And at this time, we will adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. It was great seeing you all. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank
You too. Bye-bye.